So praise Abba Yahuwah. Let me just pray before. Now I've got to put this recorder on. Thank you, Abba Father, for this wonderful Shabbat that you have given us, Father. I just want to thank you for this time. Oh, Father, I just commit this time to you, Father. I thank you for who you are. I thank you, Father, because so many times we try and put you in our box. And we do things, and we've been doing things of our flesh for so long. But the time has come now where you are having to speak to your people in this hour. And that you are saying to us in this hour, come out into the deep. Come out into the deep. And listen to me. Abba Father, I just want to thank you. I just want to thank you, Abba Father. I want to thank you. That it's not by might, it's not by power, but it's by your Ruach HaKodesh, Father. And I just want to thank you because even in our frail means of where we mess up so many times, and there's two pictures of this very message. One, when you called the disciples. One, when they felt that they have failed you. They are there. They don't know where where are you? And Peter thinking that he's just betrayed you 3 times. And resorting back to what he knows. But in both times, you say, come out into the deep. Cast your net on the right side of the boat. Do things my way. And Father, for so long, we have done things our way. And if we look at the earth the way that it is right now, it hasn't gone well. Now we even have our own set of command rules for our earth. And we are just so void of doing things the way you want it to be done. And so, Abba, my Father, I just ask you to please help us. I know we are flesh beings, and flesh gets on a throne and doesn't allow you to have your way. And we try and sometimes build even your kingdom in our strength. And so much is going on around us right now. Right now. So much is going on around us. And the world is just getting darker. But more than ever, we need to hear you. We need to hear you. We need to hear you calling us now to come out into the deep. And in the deep of the ocean, it's scary. Because in the deep of the ocean, we don't see anything. There's no land. There's no sound. We can hear ourselves think just like in the desert. And this is where we need to go. Deeper with you. And so, Abba Yahuwah, I praise you and I thank you for your word. I praise and I thank you for that which you are speaking to us in this hour. And for where you challenged me, and you're still challenging me. and how today you have revealed that you are the one who says, if you cast your net on the side that I tell you, if you just be obedient to do what I tell you to do, I will be the one to do what you cannot do. But how we are those of little faith. And so, Abba Yahuwah, I truly want to ask you today, give us ears to hear and eyes to see that which you want to speak to us in this hour. I praise and I thank you for this in Yeshua's name. Amen. And so praise Abba. And so I so desperately wanted you to see this little movie, and if we could just see it with the sound. But what is this little movie telling us? This little movie is showing us 3 minutes, 3-minute little movie. We can watch it over and over and over again. I've watched it over and over and over again until the Father speaks deeper and deeper into my heart. Like there's a specific message that I'm listening to over and over and over again until I can get it deep into my heart, because some messages and some scriptures we need to read over and over and over again until it eventually solidifies in our heart. Because we don't catch it the first time. And so the first time I watched it, it really spoke to me, but it was only when I watched it again. And I think by the third time, then the Father said, but this is what I've been sharing with you. This is what I spoke to you in Galilee. So let me give you the picture that of this little movie, that to each one of us, it can speak a different thing, depending on where we are in our lives. Each one of us can get a different understanding out of this little movie. But I want to be able to give you the message of this little movie from Scripture. So yeah, you see a man, and the man is on a fishing boat, and he's going fishing, and he's got his fishing rod, and he's there casting his net, casting his rod, trying to catch a fish. And he's taken his cute little dog with him. And so this man in his flesh is doing what he knows to do, fish. Could he maybe be catching fish for his family? We can put so many things inside there. He's got a family, he's got a wife, he's got children, he needs to catch fish for his children. We don't know all of the details. All we know is that there is a man that is doing what he knows to do, which is to fish, in his flesh nature. And then you got a little dog. And this little dog is doing what he knows to do, in his flesh nature. The little dog knows to bark. And what is the nature of a dog? The nature of a dog is to bark at a little predator. He's trying to protect his owner's worms. That the owner needs the worms, which are for the fishing. The owner needs the worms. So the dog is doing what he knows to do in his nature. And in his nature, what does he know to do? I bark. But the owner is telling the dog, shh. And that is what you couldn't really hear, because he's making a noise and he's going to scare the fish. But the owner has his back to the dog. He can't see what the dog is doing. He can't see that the dog is actually trying to protect him, because the dog is doing what he knows to do. The owner cannot see it, because the owner's back is turned to the dog. In the meantime, this bird is trying to be able to get a worm, and he wants to steal the worms. He's got a nice, ready, available catch there. It's made his life very easy for him. He doesn't need to go very far. He doesn't need to search a lot. He's got what he needs right there. A whole bunch of worms. And all he wanted really was just one worm. He just wanted a worm. He was going to try and get 1 or 2 or however many he could get, but he just wanted some of those worms in that little tin. And eventually, the man sees, turns around, sees. Eventually, the dog barks again, and now there's a scuffle going on, because now there's a scuffling going on between the bird and the dog. This is how we fight with one another. Because the dog is trying to protect the worm has a reason why he's wanting to take the worm, and the dog is trying to protect what is his owner's. And eventually, the dog wins, and the worm goes away. And the bird goes away without the worm. And then we see the real story. And now we see the bird coming to his children. And all the bird wanted to do was to feed his children. And now he's trying to give them fish. They don't want it. Because these birds, they eat worms. And it just so happens that the dog now sees the reality of what is going on. And he sees that there was a reason why the bird was trying to get the worm. And all of a sudden, he realizes, wow, wait a second. What have I done? I'm trying to protect these worms, but at the end of the day, there's hungry mouths that need to eat. So what does he do? He lets go, brings the worms and puts it there for the bird. And the bird comes and takes the worms. And so we think that is the end of the story. Because now the dog has realized he's come into compassion. See, that's what is there, compassion. He comes to compassion. And then, once he's done what he needed to do, wow, now the bird comes and brings all the fish. Now the bird goes fishing and brings all the fish and brings the fish and puts all this catch on the boat. So in the end, there's no struggle now. You might not have your worms, but you got your fish because you were willing to help me. And you see, this is the world that we are living in right now. The world that we're living in right now is just become so selfish. And man is all about self at the end of the day, isn't it? It's all about what we've got to do in our little kingdom and what we're building, and it's all about ourselves and what we know and what we do. And so when I looked at this, Father said, but is this not my story that I gave you? So we are going to look today at Luke chapter 5. So let us get our Bibles to Luke chapter 5. Because 2 weeks ago, just over 2 weeks ago, on Wednesday 2 weeks ago, so this Wednesday 2 weeks ago, I was swimming in the Sea of Galilee. And now we have just finished that Sunday. We've just had Shavuot. And now after Shavuot, we've come back. We've made our way up to Galilee. And we are sitting in Galilee. And now in Galilee is the place where Yeshua started his ministry. In Galilee is the place where Yeshua called his disciples. And so this is the message of what we are going to see today, for us to understand a little movie and what the Father is trying to say to us today. Because like I said to you, if the Father had to make a little movie for what he's trying to say in his scriptures, then he will do what he needs to do. So let us have a look at this, and we are going to look at this as the Father opens it up to us. And it came to be, from verse 1, and it came to be while the crowd was pressing upon him to hear the word of Allah, that he stood by the lake of Gennesaret, and he saw 2 boats standing by the lake. but the fishermen had gone from them and were washing their nets. And entering into one of the boats, which belonged to Shimon, he asked him to pull away a little from the land. And he sat down and was teaching the crowds from the boat. So understand, Yeshua is in the boat and he's teaching them, but he's still by the shore. Not too bad, not too far, still on land, close to land, by the shore. And this is where he was teaching the crowds from the boat. And when he ceased speaking, he said to Shimon, "Pull out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch." So he tells him to come out into the deep. Now understand, he's gone out, he's saying to Peter, "Come, we're going out into the deep." What does Peter say to him? And Shimon answering to him, "Master, we have toiled all night and caught none." So, this is Peter, this is me. I'm just like Peter. I always have an answer for the Father. It's amazing. Whenever the Father asks me to do something, I wish it was always that I would always be so quick to just say, "Oh, Father, at your word, I'll just do whatever you say." A lot of times it doesn't work like that. I want you to understand that like you, I also wrestle. I'm not always so willing and obedient because we all have a flesh nature. A dog knows to bark. A man knows to go fishing because we all have a flesh nature. A flesh nature does what it's supposed to do. A flesh nature knows what it is doing because it is a flesh nature. It is the nature of man to be able to question everything. Man doesn't just accept. So, even now, Father will tell us to do something. So you know what? Peter, Father, Yeshua has told him to do something. He didn't just all of a sudden do it because in his mind, and you think Yeshua doesn't know our mind, you think he doesn't know our thoughts. So many times he'll ask me to do something, but even if I don't speak it out loud, hear me, what I say to you today, hear me. It's not just what you speak to him. Do you think he doesn't know your thought? He tells you to do something. You don't even need to say anything. You see, I'm a speaking person, so I might say to him, "But Father, now really, how on earth do you want me to do this?" And I'll verbalize it because I'm a speaking person. But maybe you're not a speaking person, but you think it. And you say, "Well, what is he asking me to do now?" Does he actually know that I actually, toiled all night? Does he actually know? Does he just know that we've just been out on the sea the whole night and we didn't catch anything? Does he actually know that? And this is Peter. "We have toiled all night and caught none." So he spoke it. Maybe you think it. But you see, the Father knows all things because the Father knows our thoughts as much as he knows what we speak. But, and this is the but at your word I shall let down the net. The two brothers, when the father asked for the one to go and do a work, he said, "Come and do this." And he said, "Yes, I will do it." But then he went and got himself busy and he didn't do it. The other one didn't do anything about it, but then went and did it. Who is the one that obeyed? Not the one that said, "Yes, I will do it," but then didn't do it. The one that even though he is procrastinating, even though he is doubting, even though he's got many questions, "I will do what you say at your word." So, even if at that very moment when the Father is giving you an instruction, when the Father is telling you to do something, and even if at that moment you are wrestling in your flesh, what does he expect you to do? Be obedient. And even though to your mind it doesn't make sense, even though to your natural flesh nature it doesn't make sense what he's telling you to do what he tells you to do. But at your word I shall let down the net. And when they did so, they caught a great number of fish, and their net was breaking. And they motioned to the partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both the boats, so that they were sinking. And when Shimon Kepha saw it, he fell down at the knees of Joshua, saying, Depart from me, for I am a man, a sinner, O Master. He humbled himself before the Father. He realized that in his flesh man, he's wicked, because he knew within himself what he was thinking. What was he thinking? What was he at that moment thinking? He was thinking, does this man not know that we have toiled all night? Okay, so how does this fit into our little picture? How does this fit into our little picture? Our little movie? You see, in our flesh nature, we do what the Father tells us to do in terms of whether you are saved, whether you are not saved. Most of us over here are all saved, and we're doing what we think we need to do. But many times, we are still not living to the capacity of what we should be living. So we are maybe operating in the Word at a flesh level, at a level where we are still listening to the Word. We are still hearing the Word, but we are still in shallow waters. And the Father has got us in a shallow place. And you need to hear this, because this is going to speak to each one of you in a different place where you might find yourself. Some of us, it's because we've got to go into deeper level of truth. Some of us, it's because maybe we are already obeying the Father in a deeper level of truth, but we maybe need to obey Him in a deeper level of surrendering in our flesh. Some of us, it's because maybe we are surrendering in our will, but maybe we are not surrendering in our mind, and maybe we are not surrendering in our emotions. Because the soul of man, the flesh nature of man, is made up of a body that carries a soul. And the soul is the mind, the will, and the emotions. And it is the soul of man that needs to get saved, because it is the soul of man that needs to surrender to the Father, because it is the soul of man that stands at enmity against the Father. Because the soul of man either reasons in its mind, it either goes into its will, it either gets emotional about something, and therefore shuts out the Father's will and the Father's process. And this is, beloveds of the King, what many of us have been doing for so long. And we've been doing it in different areas. And please understand, we are all, not one of us, is absolutely and utterly surrendered completely to the Father, where we are out in the deep doing what He's got for us to do, because we are still wrestling with our flesh man, and we blame the devil and we blame everything else, and yet at the end of the day it's our own flesh that stands in the way, because we cannot see what His plan and purpose is. At this very moment, when He called them to come out into the deep, they did not understand what He was about to do. They didn't understand His purpose. They didn't understand His plan. They had no idea what He was about to do. They had no idea. They just had to be willing and obedient to say, I don't understand. I don't know why He wants us to come out into the deep, but we are going to go into the deep. In the darkness around us, there's nothing. I mean, if you are in the center of an ocean, look, that's not the Sea of Galilee, because the Sea of Galilee Even if you're in the middle of the Sea of Galilee, you are still going to see Tiberias and you are still going to see the mountains around you. But if you are way out in the deep of the sea, and the Father tells you to come out into the deep of the sea, there's nothing around you. Absolutely nothing. And so He's telling you to come out into the deep is far deeper than we understand. Because you see, what they didn't understand was He was about to do something new in their lives. He was calling them. And therefore, if He's going to call them, He's going to go ahead of them and He's going to provide for them. But they don't know that. The same as that little dog and that man that was trying to hit the bird with his oar, and the dog that was having a wrestling match with this bird, didn't know that the bird had children to feed. They didn't know that. They couldn't see that. They had no understanding of what was going on at that very moment. They didn't know that. Because they cannot see that. And neither could Shimon Peter see that. Neither could the disciples see that. But once they brought their boat in, listen to what it says, and they motioned to the partners in other boats to come and help them, and they came and filled both boats so that they were sinking. Imagine 2 boats filled with fish to a degree that they are sinking. How much fish is that? When the Father spoke to me many years ago, He said, it's like they actually started a fish factory. They sold so much fish that it was like a fish factory. People needed to start cleaning the fish. People needed to start bringing in this fish and then selling all this fish, and they could make all this money. Remember, they were toiling all night now to be able to go catch fish because they've been out with Him during the day. They've been listening to Him, and now they need to go fishing because this is still how they're going to pay their bills. This is what they're going to need to do, pay their bills. And this is what they know to do. But Yeshua gets so much fish caught that now they can sell all that fish and they have all the provision that they need to do what needs to be done. All the provision has been provided for them. There is nothing that is going to be missing from that place because He's provided all the fish necessary that they didn't understand. You see, if they would have just got onto His page, they would have been able to do the greater work that He had for them to do. But you see, we limit Him in our minds, in our ways, and in our resources that He's given us. It's not even ours. Nothing is ours. Everything is borrowed to us, but everything we lay claim to and think it's ours. It's mine. And nothing is ours. Everything on this earth belongs to Him. And everything is borrowed to us while we are on this life. We are in this life maybe 70 years plus we've been given, if some of us get there. But we are on this earth for a period of time. Now listen, verse 9, for astonishment and seized him and all those who with him at the catch of the fish which they took. So too were Yaakov and Yochanan, the sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Shimon. Then Yahushua said to Shimon, Simon, do not fear. From now on you shall catch men. You see, we were created first and foremost for 2 purposes in our lives. Hear me very clearly. There were 2 reasons why you were created. And this is what you must understand today. It's the 2 greatest commands. To love Abba Yahuwah, to serve Abba Yahuwah. If you love Him, you will lay down your life for Him. If you love Him, you will obey Him. So, the greatest command is love Abba Yahuwah with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. And you were created to serve the Father first and foremost. You were not created for yourself. You were bought with a price. You were bought with a price of the blood of Yeshua, which means you no longer belong to yourself. So, if you don't belong to yourself, then that means that you belong to somebody who you can surrender to, who's going to take care of you. Because if he is the master, he's the one who takes care of you. Who takes care of a little child? Does a child take care of themselves, or does the father take care, and the mother and the father take care of the child? You are bought with a price. You are there to serve him. If you put him in his place and you serve him the way that you should, and you know that your whole life is surrendered to do his will on this earth, then I tell you, your whole life will change. And from this day, if you put into practice the things that you're going to hear, your life will change. Because you will understand that you have a purpose, that you have a plan, that wherever you are, you were created to serve him. And whatever it is that you're doing now is to serve him. Your whole mindset. You see, the problem with people is they're trying to hear more teachings and more teachings to be taught. You need to hear teachings to be able to change your life. Because this word has to be put into practice in your life. And this is the difference. We don't listen to be able to hear. We listen to do. And this is why we are where we are. And this is why I'm telling you we're coming into a new gear. There's a new shift that's taken place. The shift has taken place. We started at Passover. Passover was passing over. We are now entered into the new realm of the new thing, which is now the doing. You need to go forth. You need to go and make disciples of all nations. You have come out of the Red Sea, and now you have been commissioned. You have a commission. Do you understand? You are called with a commission. You are commissioned by your Father. You were put on this earth for a purpose and a plan. You were not put on this earth because you are trying to just survive. You were not put on this earth because you are trying to lick your wounds. You are not put on this earth because you are fighting a devil. You are put on this earth because you are here to serve, first and foremost, your Father. And second, you were put on this earth because you are to serve mankind, his people. Abba, help me to just stay calm. We were put on this earth for two purposes. One, to serve him. Two, to serve his people. And when we do that, everything that we need will be added to us. Seek first the kingdom of Yahuwah and his righteousness, and everything that you need shall be added to you. Where did we go so wrong? What gospel have we been preached? What are we doing? It is so simple. This little movie spells it out so simply. It's just amazing how the Father can take a little 3-minute movie and show us everything. If you do what I tell you to do, if you stop worrying about your fishing, if you stop being in your flesh nature, and you just give what I tell you to give. Do what I tell you to do. Give all those worms that I tell you to give. Do what I'm telling you to do. Just put this word of mine into practice the way that I told you to. Then guess what? I'm going to bring the bird that's going to give you everything that you need in order for you to be able to do what you need to do. But you are still battling it out in yourself. You are still trying to do it yourself. But what you don't understand, I have people to feed. I have people. You see, Peter, you shall now catch men. You shall now go for my people. I'm not going to let you worry about the fact that you just have to sit over here and catch fish every night because you got to put food on your table. And I don't want you to be able to look at this and say to yourself, well, you know, it's easy for her to speak. She preaches. So you know what, she can go and preach to people. Excuse me? How many people do you come around you every single day? How many people do you see on a daily basis? Are you in a job? Are you surrounded by people? Do you have a mouth? Or have we all just got into a place of where we've decided, well, you know what, I don't really want to go and preach to anybody. I will just, that's for the preacher there, or that's for the evangelist there, or that's for the teacher. Really? We all have a work of ministry. We all called to be a light for the Father. And He's saying, come out into the deep. Because you know, when you come out into the deep, I'm going to be able to take you out of the shallow place where you find yourself. You are in your shallow place with me. How do you know that if you come out into the deep, I might just speak to you like I did to my son? And when he sat on the mountain, I showed him, oh, you're going to meet this man on this rock this day. And you're going to walk on the seashores, and that one's going to be there. And there's going to be one sitting under a tree. And you are going to know that this and this is about this man. You don't know what the Father's about to do when you maybe just step out and open your mouth. You don't know what you're going to do when you all of a sudden step out of where you are and you say, here I am, Father. What do you have to do today? Let me go out in this day together, Father. Let us go out together in this day, Father. What do you have for me to do today, Father? I'm going to go out into the deep with you today, Father. What is it that you've got to do, Father? What do you want me to do today, Father? Is there something that you want me to do? Is there someone that you want me to reach today? Is there something that you want me to do? Maybe I'm sitting in the grocery store, and maybe there's somebody there, and like I was speaking to this friend of mine last night, and we were sharing and how this man that she's been helping for a long time, she says, well, you know what, how you must see how the Father blesses him. You know, he goes to the petrol station and all of a sudden he just doesn't know where the next bit of money is going to come from to fill the car with petrol. So he's trying to put the least amount just to try get him around from one place to the next. And all of a sudden he gets to the petrol station, and all of a sudden this person will turn around and say, well, you know what, do you see that man over there putting petrol in? You know, while you're busy putting petrol in my car, I want you to fill up his car, and then you know what, I'll pay for his petrol. And then this is what has happened to him so many times. People that he doesn't even know will all of a sudden pay for his petrol that's being put in his car, because he's crying out to the Father and saying, Father, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then they'll put petrol in his car, and all of a sudden they'll come and knock on his window. And he rolls down the window, and they say, yeah, the Father says, I must give you this, and there's 400 rand. But you see, where's that person to be obedient to do that? It doesn't just mean it's got to happen to you. It doesn't just mean that it must be done for you. It means that if you're in a position that maybe you can do it for somebody else, maybe you're standing in the store and you say, well, Father, let me hear what you got to say. And you got to hear what, you know, and all of a sudden the Father says, oh, you know that person in front of you, oh, you see them there, you know, they're scratching around in there. It's an old person, maybe scratching around with a few little cents in their purse. Pay for their groceries. But Father, I don't even have money for my groceries. Oh, my child, can you just get over yourself? It's more blessed to give than it is to receive. Do you see where we've gone so wrong? We are trying to show a world Yeshua in our selfishness, because it's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about what they must do for me and what you must do for me. And then He blesses us, and then what do we do? He blesses us so that we can have a bigger car and a bigger house and another thing and another thing. But what do we do for Him and for His people? If we are going to have to show Yeshua to a dying world, we are going to have to know what it means to come out into the deep. And that coming out into the deep is far deeper than we understand. Because He's going to challenge us, like I said to you. Maybe you're sitting in shallow teaching. Maybe you're sitting in a church and you think you've arrived in the teachings that you're listening to. And you're listening to this wonderful teachings and all this, you know, you think you've arrived. Because, man, you've got all of this and you think you've arrived. Man, I've got all of this and I know I'm fine. He was teaching the people But he told the disciples, come out into the deep. Why? Because he was going to call 12 disciples that was going to be deeper in a relationship with him. That he was going to reveal himself and his heart and his purpose to. That he would speak to many of them surface things of the word. When he gave them the parables, he spoke in parables just like Isaiah speaks in parables, and one doesn't even understand what they're saying. But to the disciples, he would sit down and he would break open the word for them to understand the parable that he gave. And this is what we must understand. So then we look at this scripture and understand this is where Joshua calls them. So understand, he just called them into their ministry. So you can say to me, yes, Nataliyah, but you know what? This is for a bunch of people that were just being called into ministry. You know, they were being called to go walk with Joshua. But then he gave me today John chapter 21. And this is now what we're going to see, because after his resurrection, now Joshua resurrects. So this was after Passover, resurrection. And now remember 40 days he's going to appear on the earth. And so before he's going to be taken up, so they're going to be able to then go back to Jerusalem. And they're going to have to prepare themselves for Shavuot. So after all of this happens, they go back to Galilee. And so here we are from John chapter 21, from verse 3. Shimon Kepha again said to them, I'm going fishing. So there you go. So we've done so many things for the Father, and we don't see anything. Understand, these men have walked with him for 3 years. They were serving him. They were with him in ministry. Everything, they are together. And all of a sudden, he's been taken from them. He's died. Now they think that's it. Peter feels as guilty as ever because he's denied him 3 times. And he thinks, you know what, just what purpose do I have now? Understand, they were fishers of men. How many times has he said to them, you got to go out? They've already gone and done the work for him. Even before he died, they were already out healing the sick. When he sent out the 72 to go out, they were doing the signs, the wonders, and the miracles. They themselves had already operated at that. And now, what does Simon Kepha do? I'm going to fish. They said to him, we are also coming with you. Let's go back to what we know to do. Let's go back to the flesh. Because when things are not working, and the Father's not answering the prayer the way that he should answer, wait a second, let's just go back to our flesh nature again. Let's go back like the man on the boat. I'm just going to go fishing. I'm going to go be the dog that's going to bark. Because that's what I know to do, because that's my flesh nature. My flesh nature knows how to be able to operate in a flesh way. Because that's what I know. So wait a second. Father's not actually answering my prayer. Father's not doing what he needs to do, so I need to help him out. I'm going to go do what I know to do. Let me go fishing. And then the other disciples say, we'll go with you. Let us all go fishing, because you know what? At least we know how to fish. That's what we used to do. So let's go back to what we used to do. Let's go fishing. And here we go. And it says, we are going to fish. They said to him, we are coming with you. They went out and immediately entered into the boat. And that night they caught none at all. Oh my goodness, a repeat of exactly what happened in Luke chapter 4 when the ministry starts. So now this is at the end of the ministry. So how many of you, maybe you've been serving the Father for a long time. Maybe you are like me, that maybe been serving the Father for a long time. And now the Father is going to tell you to do something, or you feel discouraged or whatever. And I'm there in the Sea of Galilee, and the Father is telling me to come out into the deep, because He's requiring me to walk on water and step out in faith with Him. And I'm sitting up there thinking, well, I don't think so. Father, I don't think so. This is a little bit much for me now. I don't think I can do this, what you're asking me to do right now. And I'm wrestling. And I was wrestling out on the Sea of Galilee, me and my King. And He says, but my child, is this not where I walked on water? Is this not where I called my disciples to be able to serve me? Is this not where I did many miracles? Did I not do all these miracles in these seashores? And yet, in this time in your life, you cannot step out in faith. And do you think this is only me? This is all of us. Because we all find ourselves in the same boat. Because we all think we need to provide for ourselves. Because we all think that the Father cannot take care of us. Well, I want you to know that when the economy is going to crash, and when everything around you is going to crash, you better remember this sermon today. You better remember this prophetic word today. Because let me tell you something now. You better understand what He's saying to you about coming out into the deep. You better understand what He's saying to you, because right now, your life is still maybe going very well. Right now, you might still have a job, and you might still be paying bills, and you might still have all of this going very well. But I need you to know that the world, the way you see it right now, that everything the way you see it, like last week Sunday when I was in this earthquake, and this earthquake is going on around me, and I'm shaking in this earthquake. My life could have been turned around in seconds. It only took seconds for my entire life to have been turned around if that house would have come tumbling down on top of me. And whatever could have happened, I don't know. And that's when the Father said to me, my child, everything that's about to shake is going to be shaken. So I'm saying to you today, hear what the Father wants you to hear today. Don't think I'm speaking to a message here because it's now about the fact that, wait a second, you know what, I can't be called into ministry now, and so all of this. No, He's saying to you, you better understand what I'm saying to you today. When the shaking is going to come, which it's coming, when the world's economy is going to crash, which it will, and when we're going to see a one world kind of economy coming up, and when you cannot work anymore, when you cannot provide anymore, when you cannot keep all these things that you have been able to do before, you better understand that you better come out into the deep. And by this time, you better understand who He is and who you are and who your provision is going to come from. Because remember, when they crossed over to the other side of the River Jordan, or the other side of when they came out of the Red Sea, when they crossed the Red Sea, where did they come into? A wilderness. You must understand the wilderness is still before us. We still have a wilderness before us. The shaking, beloveds, is coming. So you better hear very clearly what the Father is trying to bring across to us today. These were disciples that knew Him. These were disciples that had seen Him do the greatest miracles. These were disciples that walked with Him for 3 years. These were disciples that sat with Him, ate with Him, saw the dead resurrect, saw Lazarus come out of the tomb after 4 days, stinking dead. And now they're going back to fishing. You better understand what the Father is trying to show us here. This is not at the beginning of their ministry. They have already started with Him 3 years ago on the shores of Galilee. Now 3 years later, after He's resurrected, where are they? Going back to fishing. Because He's failed us somewhere along the line. He's gone. He's not there. Oh, I can't sense His presence anymore. His presence has left me. Where's His presence? Oh my goodness, where am I? So Peter and them go out fishing. Listen to what happens. But when it became early morning, after they've now caught none at all. But when it came to early morning, Yahushua stood on the beach. However, the taught ones did not know that it was Yahushua. Do you understand? After having been with Him, after having spent all this time with Him, they can't even recognize that it is Him. They cannot discern. They cannot discern in their spirit that it is Him. You see, to what place are we going to get to? It's going to shake so badly that we are going to feel like we don't even know Him. We won't even recognize Him. And He will be in a room with us, and we won't even know that He's present, because it's going to be so dark that we're not even going to feel His presence. And will you be able to hang on to the hem of His garment at that hour? So listen. Then Joshua said to them, children. What does He call them? He calls them children. Can you believe it? Because now they're behaving like little children. Children that don't know who their parent is. They've dwelt with Him. They've been with Him. But they cannot recognize Him. He's in a resurrected body. And in His resurrected body they cannot discern, because why? They didn't take Him at His word. They didn't believe that He had said to them, I am coming back. I am going to die, but I'm coming back. After 3 days, all these stones of you are going to fall, but after 3 days, I will come back. He didn't take them. They didn't take Him seriously. They didn't take Him at His word. They didn't have the faith. Now He calls them children, because why? Children are little children that don't know much. He doesn't call them disciples or elect ones or whatever. He calls them children. Have you any food? They answered Him, no. No, we don't have food. No, you see, because no, we went and we fished all night and we've caught nothing. No, we've got nothing. And He said to them, throw the net on the right side of the boat, and you shall find. This time, they don't question. They just obey. Last time, right in the beginning, Peter still said, I toiled all night, we caught nothing. This time, they threw and were no longer able to draw it in because of the larger number of fish. The taught one whom Joshua loved then said, Kepha, it is the Master. Interesting. Who discerns straight away that it's the Master? John, who's the one that the Father's going to give the revelation of the whole book of Revelation. John. Who's the disciple that had his head on his bosom? John. John was the one that was the closest to Joshua, that knew Joshua's heartbeats. So immediately he knows it is Yahushua. He's seen this before. It's been there before. Immediately he discerns it's the Master. Then we go down. Then Shimon Kepha, hearing that it was the Master, put on his outer garment, for he was stripped, and plunged into the sea. And the other taught ones came in little boat, for they were not far from land, but about 200 cubits, dragging the net with fish. So when they had come to land, they saw a fire of coals there, and the fish laid on it, and bread. And Joshua said to them, bring some of the fish which you have now caught. Shimon Kepha went up and dragged the net, filled with 153 big fish. And though there were so many, the net was not broken. Remember, the first one the net broke. This one the net is not broken. Everything that is broken is going to be made whole. And now, he doesn't meet them on the water with them. He's now on the shore. You see, you've gone fishing already. You've come out into the deep. You've come to learn my ways. I've taught you my ways in the deep. I've taught you everything I need to teach you out in the deep. Now I need you to come back to shore, because I'm going to feed you, and you are going to feed my people from here. Everything that I taught you, go and teach them, teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And Yeshua said to them, come, have breakfast. And not one of the taught ones had the courage to ask him, who are you? Do you understand? They're still sitting in. Not one of them had the courage to ask, who are you? Knowing that it was the master. So you see, they still wanted to sort of ask, who are you? Yet, knowing that he must be the master, because understand, in his resurrected body, he obviously doesn't look the same. He's got a new resurrected body. He looked differently. He looked different. Yeshua came and took the bread and gave it to them, and some with fish. This was now the third time Yeshua was manifested to his taught ones after he was raised from the dead. So understand, this is the third time, and yet they didn't recognize him. Do you see? Where will we be? In what state of mind will we be? Oh, you are so downcast, oh my soul. Why are you so downcast, oh my soul? Come out of that place of your slumber. Look up, for your redemption draws near. When therefore they had eaten breakfast, Yeshua said to Shimon Kepha. You see, Shimon, son of Jonah, do you love me? More than these, he said to him, yes. Master, you know that I love you. He said to him, feed my lambs. He said to him again, a second time, Shimon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than, do you love me? And he said to him, yes, Master, you know that I love you. He said, shepherd my sheep. He said to him a third time, Shimon, son of Jonah, do you love me? Kepha was sad because he said to him a third time, do you love me? He said to him, Master, you know all. You know that I love you. Yeshua said to him, feed my sheep. So as I bring this fish onto shore, I need you to go forth and feed my sheep. Now you might be sitting over there and saying, yeah, but this is not my call. This is not my call. This is not what I'm called to do. Fair enough, I understand. But everybody has a commission. Everybody is called for a commission. And we're going to read our commission before we close off today, because this is what the Father gave me. We've all been given a commission if we have Messiah Yahushua within us. All of us are called to be able to go and feed the sheep around us. And the day might come that you might not even feed them spiritually, but you might have to feed them physically. Because the Father will provide you the manna that He's going to give you so that you can go and feed others. So whatever it is that the Father has put in your hands for you to do, whatever it is that the Father is asking for you to do, just be obedient to do what He's telling you to do. We might not all, there's the fivefold ministry. We might not all be apostles. We might not all be prophets. We might not all be teachers. We might not all be pastors. And we might not all be shepherds. Teachers, evangelists. We might not all be evangelists. But we are still called to be able to be there for His people. Because we are still called to the two greatest commands. Loving Him and loving His people. Serving Him and serving His people. As long as we keep that before our eyes, we will fulfill what the Father has got for us to fulfill on this earth. Now this is the one that really gets you when we understand what He says. Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were young, you girded yourself and walked where you wished. You see, and that's the mission of the understanding this little video. You see, both the man and the dog were in their flesh nature. The dog was in his flesh nature by barking at the bird. But when the dog saw what was going on with the bird, and that the worms were for the bird, the flesh nature of the dog had to be dropped to the ground. And he had to go into a thing that's not his to do. Because he saw the need. How many times do we know of a need, but we turn a blind eye to the need? How many times? He says, truly, truly, I say to you, when you were younger, you girded yourself and walked where you wished. So we've all done what we've wanted up until now. We've all been living our lives for ourselves up until now. But I tell you now, in the days ahead, you will no longer be able to live your life for yourself. You will not. Because very soon, if you are a true child of Yahuwah, who's got the living Yahuwah living within you, you are going to have to stretch out your hands to many around you, because there's just going to be so many people that you're going to need to help. Because at the end of the day, you must understand something, and this is a whole teaching of what the Father is busy with me at the moment. The Father put it together that I'm going to release it to the people in Albertina, where the Father got me to put a scale. And the scale is made up of grace and law. It's made up of mercy and righteousness. It's made up of spirit and truth. And understand, this is the scale. Yeshua is the scale. His perfect grace and His perfect law. His perfect mercy and His perfect righteousness. His perfect spirit and His perfect truth. And whatever tilts one way more than the other makes the scale unbalanced. So there's some people that want more law than what they want grace. You cannot have that. So there's some people that have only grace. They only want grace. We are saved by grace. But if we don't have His instructions of His commands put in place, then you will be lawless. And this is what we need to understand. If we are just on righteousness, He's a righteous judge. He judges righteously, but at the same time, He's merciful. He's compassionate. He's loving. And He's kind. He judges us until the 4th and the 5th generation, but He shows mercy till 1,000 generations. Do you understand? Compassion. He gives us the truth of the word from Genesis to Revelation, so it's the truth that is spoken in the written word that He gives us. But then He speaks to us in truth, in the Spirit, so it's spirit and truth. Spirit, what He speaks to us, and we walk by the Ruach of Yahuwah, and truth in what is in the Word. So when we have the compassion, then we will understand that we will no longer do what we want, because we will be on the Father's page and having the Father's heart. And then He says, truly, truly, I say to you, when you were younger, you girded yourself and you walked where you wished. But when you are old, you shall stretch out your hands, and another shall gird you and bring you where you do not wish. So do you see? There will be those that are going to be able to take us, maybe reject us and persecute us and speak up against us. But if we are dead in our flesh nature, why are we getting offended, is what I ask. This is the challenge that He's got in the deep place that He's taking me out into the deep. That deep waters is, my child, you are very much have died in your will. Your will is submitted to me. But where your mind and your emotions are concerned, you are still too much in your emotions. You're still too concerned about what people think and what people say because of your persecution and all of this. You've got to become a dead person to all of that. As long as I am pleased with you, and as long as you're pleasing me, and as long as you're doing what I'm asking you to do, then that is all I require of you. Finished. Why are you getting upset? Why are you going down this road? Why are you giving the enemy a foothold in your life? For what reason? And so, at the end of the day, he was letting Peter know, you are going to go through much persecution. So understand, we are going to have to go through much persecution. But what does he say? He said to him, follow me. What does he say to us today? Follow him. Follow me is what Joshua is saying to us in this day. So, I want to finish off with our commission, because this is our commission. This is everyone's commission. If you have the living Yah living within you, if you pride yourself to say today, I am a child of the living Yah, I am a child that has given my life to him, then this is the commission that I speak over you today, because this is your commission. And there is no one void of this commission, because if the living Yeshua is living within you, this was his commission. So if this was his commission, this is your commission, because you have the living Yahushua that is now dwelling within your dwelling tent. And he says, the Spirit of the Master Yahuwah is upon me. So what did we receive? So I want you to understand, we've come out of Shavuot. We had a powerful release in Shavuot. So what was the release for? For you to understand that now the living Yahuwah, the Spirit of the living Yahuwah is upon you. Because Yahuwah has anointed me. You better believe that you are anointed. You better know that you are anointed, because you have been called and you are anointed. Because the anointed one lives within you. So if you are surrendered and submitted to him, the anointed one is the anointed one who's going to work through you to do what he wants to do. All you need to do is get out of the way. Less of you and more of him. More of you and less of him. So if there's less of you, there's more of him. So what does he say? Because Yahuwah has anointed me to bring good news to the meek. So we're to bring good news to the meek, to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted. So if there's brokenhearted, we've got to bind them up. We've got to be there to deliver them. To proclaim release to the captives, and the opening of prison doors to those who are bound. So he's going to open the prison doors to those that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of Yahuwah, and the day of the vengeance of our Eloah, to comfort all who mourn. So if they're mourning, you will comfort them. Because this is what he wants you to do. To appoint unto those who mourn in Zion, to give embellishment for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garments of praise for the spirit of heaviness. So wherever there's a spirit of heaviness, we will bring rejoicing and praise. And they shall be called trees of righteousness. We are then to be called trees of righteousness, a planting of Yahuwah to be adorned. So, this is our commission. And the Father has just told me now that I will continue this next week with the second part of what was all that the scriptures that I wrote down that was to go with this message as well, that I will continue. For us to understand that when he says to come out into the deep, what does it look like? Because this is a message. And we need to understand the depth. So praise Abba Yahuwah that we will stop here. And so let us pray. Abba Yahuwah, I just want to praise and thank you, my Father. I thank you for your word. I thank you for the deep place that you're taking each one of us into. I thank you that we are now in an hour and in a time that we need to understand that the time that we're in is a very critical and serious time. How much deception is out there? So much deception that it shocks me to the core of my being. It shocks me to the core of my being that there's even little videos that came out last night, and now again this morning this thing was being sent out of where a woman is even saying, what authority did you ask Yeshua to ask if you can change his name from Jesus to Yeshua? Oh my Father, what? Where are we? And that the language that was spoken was Roman. Oh my goodness, from where have we fallen, Father? What deception, what deception, what deception. And that is why you are now saying, come out into the deep. Because there's so much out there that's going to lead people astray. People that will have received truth are going to fall from the truth that they received because they will listen to doctrines of demons. The devil is desperate to bring people into his kingdom. And all he needs to do is get them to disobey. It's so simple. It's all about disobedience. And if he gets us to disobey, he's got us where he wants us to be. To not receive the blessing of the Father. So Abba, I thank you for your word. I thank you that you will manifest this word in our lives, my Father. Take us deeper with you. Take us deeper into that which you want to do in this hour. I praise you and I thank you, my Father, for your faithfulness. I thank you that the one who's called us, the one who has filled us with the Ruach, is the one who lives within us. He's the anointed one who's going to be able to be the hands outstretched, and is the one who's going to be doing the work that needs to be done. We just need to step aside and let you do it. Teach us how this is done, Father. Just show us what it is that you have us to do, that we can finally get to the place of being such death in ourselves to allow you to be the one to manifest yourself on the earth, Father. Because truly mankind needs to see you. And if we are to provoke a people to jealousy through the relationship that we have with you, it's because you need to be manifest in us. So teach us, Father. Lead us and guide us. Teach us your ways so that we may walk in them, Abba. And so I praise and I thank you for the Shabbat, and I thank you for your word. May it go far and wide and reach the people that it needs to reach. Wake up your people, Father, for them to understand what is on their doorstep, that truly the hour is very late. And yet people are still playing games. Make them realize that now is the time to wake up more than ever before. And so I praise and I thank you for this, your word, Father, in Yeshua's name. Amen. Let us read the Aaronic blessing. Yevarechecha Yahuwah v'yishmerecha. Yair Yahuwah panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Yahuwah panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yahuwah bless you and keep you. Yahuwah make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. Shabbat shalom. Amen.